Well, I want to ask you, you mentioned side effects. The side effects for the Moderna vaccine sound concerning. We looked. After the second dose, at least 80% of participants experienced a systemic side effect, ranging from severe chills to fevers. So, are these vaccines safe?
Well, the FDA, not being pressured, will look hard at that. The FDA is the gold standard of regulators, and their current guidance on this, if they stick with that, is very, very appropriate. And you know, the side effects were not super severe. That is, it didn't cause permanent health problems for the things there. Moderna did have to go with a fairly high dose, and so to get the antibodies. Some of the other vaccines are able to go with lower doses to get responses that are pretty high, including the J&J and the Pfizer. And so there's a lot of characteristics of these vaccines. It's great that we have multiple of them that are
Bill,
going out there. And yes, I think
you know the data better than I do.
government-
But Bill, the data showed that everybody with a high dose had a side effect.
Yeah, but some of that is not dramatic, where it's just super painful. But yes, we need to make sure there's not severe side effects. The FDA, I think, will do a good job of that, despite the pressure.
How many doses of the vaccine will we need?
Well, none of the vaccines at this point appear like they'll work with a single dose. That was the hope at the very beginning. Maybe one of them, particularly in the second generation, won't surprise us. We hope just 2, although in the elderly, sometimes it takes more. And so making sure we have lots of elderly people in the trial will give us that data.
You've said some more than 7 billion doses. That's what we'll need.
Well, if what you're trying to do is block all the transmission, then you need to get 70-80% coverage on a global basis. So that it's unbelievably big numbers.
I mean, you're talking about a global vaccination program without a vaccine that hasn't been fully developed yet, and a massive scaling up of how to produce one or several vaccines. I mean, it's mind-boggling to think about this effort.
But the private companies have stepped up. The science has been advanced. The U.S. funds biological research more than any other country. We've stepped up to fund these vaccine manufacturers. The plants are being worked out now. In 2021, there's a good chance this can get done, and because this is about the billions that we need to spend to save trillions and avoid all those deaths.
But who's going to get the vaccine first?
That's in discussion. Clearly, the U.S., by funding factories in the U.S., will get priority. But if we can have other factories, and this is where the U.S. government's traditional generosity in global health will be needed, our foundation will be needed, other countries. We want to make sure that we don't have people dying just because they can't afford to have access to the vaccine. And so that speaks to the top priority of our foundation. And there's good discussions going underway. The U.S. in this next relief bill may put 1% of it to make sure we stop the pandemic in the entire world, and then that'll draw other countries into that effort.
I want to ask you about today, the government support, taxpayer money that's going towards vaccine development. Today, we learned Pfizer is going to get nearly $2 billion, Moderna receiving $438 million in taxpayer money. And yet both companies have said they will not sell the vaccine at cost. They're going to make a profit on it. Should pharmaceutical companies profit off this vaccine research that taxpayers have helped fund?
Well, the Pfizer case is more of a procurement agreement than an R&D funding agreement. AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson have said they're going to use a nonprofit construct. The exact contracts that were negotiated, I don't have access to. But yes, you'd want to balance the fact who's taking the risk and who gets the benefit of those things. It's fantastic that the research is being funded, and I hope those agreements in terms of pricing and access are very strong.
Now, let me ask a question for the people out there who